thank you for inviting me here to speak about my research. My research interest started about 35 years ago when I was watching a young boy with autism. At that time, most people didn't know what autism was. Neither did I. And I had the opportunity to watch him bite his hand, slap his face, bite other parts of his body. He was also hitting his instructor, who turned out to be his mother. And my interest at that time was to see why would people do this. It makes no sense from a human perspective. So I started doing research on trying to find out why. But before I do that, I just want to show you a very short video clip of a young woman, about 33 years old, who was deaf and blind and hitting herself, just to give you kind of a feeling of what that looks like, because my experience is most people have never seen this. So let's take a quick look at the video clip, and then we'll come back and talk about the research.
One for you for another $50. Here's your third clue. This one has 7 letters. Go.
Thanks, darling.
E, E, R, L, J. Yeah, Eleanor. It is. Eleanor. And you have picked up another $50, another chance at the board. Look out, the stinger's still there, Gabe.
First you get it right now. Yeah. It's me.
One F to 500. It's your second letter.
I talked to Mary Jane about it.
7, 325, and 3. Half a game. You won the first round, you won the second round. It's going to come down to round number 3, where everything is worth $100. It's important because it'll determine who goes on for the $1 million and gets to keep their money. Now you're going to have to talk it over and decide who's going to play round 3. Go to your game. And Kevin and Beth, who's going to play for yours? Kevin. You ready, Kevin? All right. And how about you guys? Yeah, it's going to be James. All right. The guys will face off in our final round. We'll see what happens when we come back right after this.
Ew, gross. You're all orange.
So as you can see from that clip, very unusual to look at someone who is really hitting themselves very severely. So my interest was in why. And we started some research looking at different functions of behavior problems. For example, to get attention from somebody else, to get out of situations that were difficult for them, to get things that they wanted. And I developed, along with a colleague, something called the motivation assessment scale, which allowed people to figure out just what motivated people's really severe behavior problems. That scale now has been used all around the world. It's also been adapted to be used in a number of different other kinds of behaviors, including school refusal, figuring out why some kids refuse to go to school that may be different than other kids. It's also been being used now for gambling, that people gamble for different reasons. So we're very proud of that work. That function research led us to kind of ask the question, if these behaviors may be ways of communicating what they want, what if we taught them a better way to ask for what they wanted? So I designed an intervention called functional communication training, where we taught individuals to ask for the things that they seem to want with their behavior problems. So if I'm in a tough task and I need help, instead of slapping myself, instead of falling on the floor or flipping the table over, if I told this individual how to ask and get help, the behavior problem should be reduced. And we've done this now with people of all ages, people with different diagnoses, even people with traumatic brain injury, people with dementia who have difficulty communicating what they want. And the results suggest that this is a very effective way to reduce very severe behavior problems in a number of different people. So we've taken that work. There are now several hundred studies from labs all over the world that have replicated that research and shown that it really can have an effect on a variety of different behavior problems, not just self-injury and aggression and tantrums, but even things like inappropriate sexual behavior, running away, and again, a number of different populations. And over the years, as that research has advanced, I started to see that I was interested in prevention. How could we prevent these severe behavior problems from happening. So we did a longitudinal study looking at 3-year-olds who had behavior problems and developmental disabilities, and then looked to see what predicted 3 years later which kids would be worse, which kids would have more severe behavior problems. And then we looked at things like their language skills, social skills, IQ, their diagnosis. We also looked at factors in the family. And what was surprising to us was the best predictor, which I thought, given my interest in communication, would be their communication skills. But in fact, the best predictor of which kids would get worse from age 3 to 6 was parental pessimism. In other words, if at age 3 the parents started giving in to their child because they couldn't listen to them cry or couldn't listen to them whine, kids got worse and worse and worse as they grew older. So this led to a large study which we completed here at USF St. Petersburg, a 5-year study looking at how can we help these pessimistic parents? How can we help these parents not give in to their kids? And so we looked at the literature, and obviously there's a whole literature on cognitive behavior therapy. So we said, well, what if we, in addition to teaching them how to work with their child, also taught them how to be more optimistic, that perhaps they can help their child. You don't have to give in to your child's behavior problems. What if we added that optimism training to the behavioral parent training? So we took, and this was done here in Florida and also in New York, a large number of families who were pessimistic about their abilities as parents and their child's ability to change. We also picked individuals who had kids with very severe behavior problems. And we divide them into 2 groups, randomly divide them into 2 groups in a randomized clinical trial. And found that when we added this optimism training, parents actually were much better able to work with their child. So addressing this attitudinal variable, being optimistic, made them persist with their child. If we didn't do that, if we just gave them behavioral parent training, pessimistic parents essentially started to give up and avoid problems, which we call the concession process. So they started to concede to their child. So you can sit on the floor and eat dinner watching your favorite video. I might let you wear the same shirt every single day just to avoid problems. But when we gave parents optimism training, they didn't allow that. They persisted. And then they reported to us not only were their children much better, but also they felt more confident. They had better quality of life. They were more willing to go out in the community and work with their child and play with other kids. So this is what we're doing now. We're looking at this kind of optimism training. We've done this large study with families, which we'll replicate, and now we've added it for teachers because we know we have pessimistic teachers as well who avoid problems with students in their class. So we did one study now at Georgia State University with a colleague of mine where we did optimistic teaching and found the same thing, that once teachers were more optimistic about their ability to work with kids, they actually worked better with their kids, taught the kids more social skills, more proactive kinds of skills. So right now what we're doing is replicating those kinds of studies, but also looking at this concession process, this tendency by some families and some teachers to give in to resistance on the part of the student or their child. What happens then is over the years, as you give in more and more, families become trapped. And families will say, I have a 16-year-old who runs the house. We're afraid of him. We can't work with them because he's just going to explode. So we're looking now as an early intervention approach to study this concession process and to be able to better design treatments to help these individuals. So that's the work that we've been doing over the past few decades, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about it, and have a nice day.